I'm Dylan.
Oh,
I'm Juraria.
okay. Hi, I'm Justin.
Hi, I'm Neil, and this is Youth on Subjects of the World, and today we're going to be talking about Universal Basic Income, or UBI for short. Now, let's start this episode off by just having like the general poll of, like a general opinion poll. All right, so, okay, wait. Let's start with what Universal Basic Income is first, actually. That'd probably be a better place to start. So, Universal Basic Income is it's generally a benefit that the government provides. It's a flat amount of income you get basically for just existing. So this has become in America has become a more big political topic now that one of the candidates for the presidential election, Andrew Yang, has come out with a plan for a $1,000 UBI every month for every American over the age of 18. And so it's brought up a lot of questions such as, is this going to actually help anything? Where are people going to get the money? How is it going to affect inflation in any way? All right, so let's get a general opinion poll. So how do you want to start off? Anyone come out and say, what do you think about UBI?
I think it's a very interesting concept. Like in our country, like what he's proposing, do you say $1,000?
$1,000 every month.
Like South Africa itself is
12,000 a year.
Yeah, 12,000 a year.
Yeah, in
No,
South Africa.
But it's given monthly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's given monthly, 1,000 monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in South Africa it's very different. I mean, we don't actually have a basic income sort of thing. Like there is, of course, minimum wage and stuff like that, but we don't actually have high amounts that are given
I don't
a month.
think throughout, even in the U.S., it's not implemented yet. It's just a proposal.
No universal basic income. There's only one UBI plan in the U.S. that exists right now, and it's actually only in Alaska, which is like one of the smallest states, of course, by population. So we don't really have. So that's the whole point of it. Is the whole like controversy of it is kind of because like we haven't really seen that much evidence of it working too well, and that's why there's a lot of like uncertainty around it.
Well, we haven't really seen any controvecy as to whether it doesn't work either.
Well, that's the point. There's no evidence towards or against it. There's no evidence for or against it.
In small communities throughout the world where
has anyone seen any studies about places that have tried it out and how it's worked?
I believe Finland did an experiment of universal basic income because Finland's one of the largest states in the world, like by welfare standards, I guess. And they thought, like, what if we replace the welfare with universal basic income and supplant it like that? They tried studies. The studies really haven't shown very much difference, really. It's just people have more money now.
How were the studies conducted? How is it? Because Dylan, I don't know, but didn't Brian say Brian is someone we know who he majored in economics? Didn't he say something like economic studies are like how would an economic study perform? Because I mean, bringing economics to scale is kind of like
it's just insane. Like there's so many factors in economics.
Yeah, because economics is such a I don't know how we would conduct it. Like when it comes to like a topic like medicine, it's very easy to conduct a study like with like a placebo control trial. But there are no placebo control trials for economics. Especially
you can't have like Seattle where there was a minimum wage and a Seattle where there wasn't a minimum wage, like
exactly.
a $15 minimum wage, because there's just too many factors. Like
the only experiment you can do is implementing it. So I'd be interested in seeing what that study is, because I don't know how
was it conducted?
Economic study. How do you conduct I don't know how you conduct an economic study exactly.
It wasn't. It was an experiment where they actually went in and gave people.
So they actually implemented it.
Yeah, they actually implemented it on a small scale. Similar to like Alaska, they didn't give it to the whole population, but they, Let me see.
Right. So, all right. So let's just finish the opinion poll real quick. Okay, what do you think about? Sorry, Justin, is that your name?
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, what do you think about it? UBI.
So I heard about it a long, long time ago, like when I was 14 or so. So that's like 5 years ago, and I thought it was like stupid. But like now I study like engineering. And the thing is, like, I've become like really worried about what I'm doing, and very few jobs where you could not replace with a robot. Like
Right.
flipping burgers.
Yeah,
I've
automation
never
is
done it.
pretty big deal.
Yeah, and people can. There's already restaurants in California which are entirely automated away, and like it seems ridiculous now, but I see like in the future, there's going to be very few jobs available, and there's going to be some need for like assistance or like economic like subsistence to like maintain the population. Otherwise, like nobody's going to consume, and I just see it as inevitable.
Right. I kind of see it as like inevitable as well, just because I mean it's kind of like for me it isn't a question of should we do it. It's a question kind of like when should we do it, because if this trend of automation continues, we're kind of going to have to default to a UBI kind of society anyways, regardless of anything else, of any other factors. So, but the question is right now, while we still do have many opportunities and job opportunities, is a good idea right now. And so yeah, and so I would say I don't know. I was originally really opposed to it, but now looking at it more,
Well,
yeah.
In the future, I do think it might be something that will be spread across certain countries, but you also have to think about the countries that want to or are going to implement it. It'll obviously start in countries that are way more forwards in terms of technology, and as you said, like restaurants flipping burgers and stuff like that won't have a need for people anymore. So I suppose in terms of when it's going to start, it will start relatively soon depending on the country. But if we take South Africa, for instance, I'd say we're far from starting that. As opposed to being opposed to it or not opposed to it, I find it interesting because it's I'm trying to think about like the country that I'm living in and how it would work. I'm not entirely, I mean, it would be really brilliant, but I don't see how it'll actually help the country as a whole to develop forwards, if you get me.
What do you mean by that? How would it not help? How would it because I feel like with UBI, it's kind of like the argument of giving someone, let's just go with Andrew Yang's thing for start off. The argument of giving someone $1,000 extra dollars every, $1,000 extra dollars every month. I don't really think, I think it's kind of no one is really opposed to that idea necessarily. They're just opposed to the defects that it will have.
I mean, I live in Texas, and I try and explain it to old people, and they're like, oh my God, it's demeaning to people to give them money, and the way they have this conception that
a lot of people have a pride thing.
Accepting money is a very bad thing. It's and it's they're deeming you worthless.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a culture in America where it's I work for my money, so why shouldn't you fucking work for your money?
I know, it's exactly how America is. It's really just...
Especially in Texas, okay.
I'm not saying that's my perspective. I'm just saying I feel like that's a general American culture.
That is
I have a professor.
Everybody
who's,
everybody... Ask any average American, and they're gonna say, they're gonna think of the homeless as this lazy assholes friggin' sitting there. I'm not saying that's my perspective, but that's the general sentiment of America is very independent, and you just you do what you do and you make your money. But I really like what Andrew Yang said, that the money in the government, it's our money. We're all shareholders in the business of the United States of America, so we are all entitled to take money out of it if we vote that we want to. So I really like that idea. Now, I'm not saying it's an argument in favor of UBI, because UBI still has logistical arguments against it, which we can get into and then either, debunk or support, depending on how they hold up. But when it comes to the moral argument, I don't think there's any moral argument against UBI, because honestly, if you're living in a country, and obviously some people aren't paying taxes, but if you're not paying taxes, you're already living a pretty bad life, because you have a really, really super low income, and I mean you're already paying taxes, you already have to abide by the American laws, and yeah, you're you're a shareholder in the American business, and I think you're entitled to vote for someone that will give you a share of your profits.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, well, who was it? It was Dylan, right? Dylan, like Dylan said, there's a lot of people who think like we need to like work for the money, and if you're not
Yeah.
working, then you're like you don't deserve it. And so like there's a lot of people in Texas who are like, if you're not working, you don't deserve to be alive, which I don't. And there's a lot of people like they have very constrained morals. They don't really see any point in helping anyone besides babies and mothers and like you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's very hard to argue morality to them. So and it's very hard for them to accept the idea of just accepting
Well,
as a
I
right of
definitely.
citizenship.
I mean, I definitely agree with that, but I feel like you need to kind of like argue off the point of, because if we argue off of practicality of getting people's opinions to change, I feel like that's kind of a moot point because it honestly isn't going to matter because if the argumentation for getting it implemented is like I guess that's the only way we could change their minds. So like arguing if we could possibly change their minds, I feel like it's kind of just like a moot point, even though it's probably like one of the hardest things, obviously, because Andrew Yang, the only candidate pushing UBI and our really only hope of getting a federal UBI is like 1% in the polls.
And also think about like about saying like there's like an American thing about not accepting money. It's also putting into consideration that they're giving the money to everyone. They're not just saying, okay, we're only giving it to this class of people who are earning this much. No,
Yeah,
you
that's
guys
sort
are
of
giving
Yeah.
you're giving it to everyone. So you can't say, I mean, like, of course, it's for argument's sake, but it's being given to everyone. So with not accepting money, I suppose that's the thing about pride then at the end of the day and what their morals are. But the whole point is that you're giving everyone a chance. And I think, like, obviously when some people talk about, like, you know, if you're not working for your money, you don't deserve it sort of thing. Would it really be a case of you're not working for it if everyone is getting it? I mean, I know them.
Well, so that's actually why Andrew Yang did it. That's the reason why Andrew Yang wanted to do it for everyone. He didn't want to have the mentality of like, he didn't want to, as he put it, encourage people to like make less money. Like all those like, and that's kind of the same argument against like a 70% tax bracket. It's like you don't want to encourage people to make less money. So
there's also a thing like when you get $1,000 a month, it seems like it could pay for everything, but like my rent that I have to pay during the school year is almost like $700. I would still need like on top of that, you know, between a bunch of other expenses, I would run out of $1,000 very quickly.
See, that's the thing.
I mean, I would save it, but like, it's not like $1,000 a month is going to like suddenly keep me alive. Like I can't live off of $1,000 a month.
Yeah, $1,000 is like by definition like not a living wage.
Yes, and that's the point. It's not to supplant someone's wage. And I don't think the $12,000 is going to even really change how much employment is going to be in the US. It's just going to be something that American people spend more and more.
The point is, no one's going to quit their job for a $12,000 salary a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to be quitting their job for that. And if they do, well, I'd like to live where they live because I would like to see their cost of living. But I think also, so I think it's pretty clear that does anyone personally here have any moral issues against UBI? Not practical, moral.
Can't say I do.
No, I don't believe I do.
Okay, Justin, same thing.
So I do support UBI, but there's one thing I can say is that with UBI, like what you're doing is also stripping people of their welfare. And at the same time, Andrew Yang is like, you know, he's making it opt-in, but then like at the same time, sometimes welfare is more effective at providing to a populace that needs it.
I don't think Andrew Yang is taking anything away. He's paying for it with a value-added tax.
No. It's an opt-in. So like when you opt into the freedom dividend, right?
Right.
you don't get any welfare benefits.
Okay, right, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's how it works. And a lot of these welfare benefits, I I guess I can see like being more effective at providing to the population, but I don't know, like it's just a inherent like moral thing. Like if UBI is the most effective welfare proposition versus whether regular welfare is just as effective.
Right. I mean, and I think, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, we are a little bit downplaying how much it, because while $12,000 a year for a salary is nothing, a $12,000 raise is pretty huge for the average American. So I mean, it is definitely a lot of money. But the thing is,
Yeah.
so I think that's what brings us into I think our second thing. It's probably inflation. Is this going to affect inflation? This is something that's very interesting to me
This is the
because
main thing that I've been trying to think about too.
this is the main thing that has prevented me from going, oh yeah, go UBI. It's kind of just been like, okay, but what about inflation? Does anyone have any comments on that?
So what I think is in the short term, there won't be as much inflation as you think. You know, no one's going to be like day one, increase prices tenfold. Well, like over time, it's going to happen. But you know, what happens when you redistribute wealth into like the people like who actually use it, as opposed to just keeping it stored up in Bill Gates' bank account? Like he earns $187 every second. Like think about how he can't even think about how to spend all of that.
Yeah.
And like if it's just and like when you automate work, everything's getting cheaper to produce. And if you're raising prices to compete, there's a lot of people who just drop prices and then they compete by dropping prices. And that's how the economy's been working so far. Just the lowest you can produce, the more you succeed. Or like the lowest you can sell for, the most you can succeed. So I don't see like a huge inflation problem like Germany after World War II. But like at the same time, there
Yeah,
will
well,
be.
that's the thing. They printed more money, though. They didn't actually give money. They didn't redistribute. They printed.
Yeah, so if you just print away money, then there's going to be an inflation problem. But then like as Andrew Yang said, like after the 2008 market bubble, like who paid for they just gave away like a $3 trillion to pay off like a bubble, a housing bubble.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. Is there anyone who like opposes it?
UBI.
Yeah.
Okay, so I originally opposed it until 2 weeks ago when I went on Andrew Yang's website during the show. Dylan and I were on the show and we were looking at the 2020 presidential candidates, the Democratic candidates, and we were on Andrew Yang's website and we were reading it. And now I'm kind of like, I don't know. I kind of want proof. Again, getting proof in economics is hard. That's one of the biggest problems with it. But so he says that history has shown that inflation normally only occurs when you increase the amount of money in the system. But if you're only taking the money, if you're only redistributing the money, inflation really isn't going to occur. Like if you're taking it out, and obviously we're not printing more money. We're taking, it's going to be paid for with a value-added tax. Now, it's going to take a little while to get all the money. So I think the government is going to front the cost for some of it. But honestly, people are so concerned about increasing the deficit. I just like, okay, people really need to not be concerned with increasing the deficit, because as long as we like raise the debt limit and as long as we are paying off like actual like American companies, it's going to be fine. Because people who say that really don't understand how the debt limit works. Maybe we can have an episode on that, because Dylan and I have ranted about the Federal Reserve way too much. Basically, the way America's money system works is that every time a dollar is printed, more debt is accumulated on that exact dollar because of the way the Federal Reserve just works. But yeah, so I wouldn't be too concerned with increasing the deficit, even though, and that's even if we're printing the money. We're not even printing the money. We're getting with a value-added tax. But the only concern that I have is that, yes, we're not printing more money, and that's a good thing. We're redistributing the money from Amazon Amazon isn't being taxed, or companies like Amazon. Amazon is currently not being taxed correctly. And it is a good thing that we're going after them and we're getting the money from them and we're every American gets $1,000. That's great. But the only problem is that, and yes, we're redistributing. We're not increasing the money. But I feel like, I mean, I'm just thinking about this logically. If every American consumer has $1,000 more, why wouldn't prices go up? Like, why wouldn't they? Like, that's just my thing. It's like, why would prices not go up if every single American has $1,000 more in their bank account every single month? Why wouldn't people rack up their prices? Because then what are consumers going to do? Andrew Yang said this himself. The money's going to go straight back into the economy. For the average American, they're going to immediately spend that $1,000, so they need to spend it on bills. So the second they get it, they're going to put their money back into the economy, right? But that means that more money is being spent. Demand goes up. Supply increases, and also what happens there is cost increases because companies realize they can start charging more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you also giving people who people who just don't earn a lot of money a month, and you're giving them a lot of money and they're going to be spending it, especially if if it first happens, there's going to be a lot of spending because people have that money to spend, and people who don't spend that much, which is quite a lot of people, will be spending almost $1,000.
Like I feel like it's like the money. It's not like there will be more money being printed into the economy, but it'll be like the money is going to be spent on different products that the Americans, like the average American, didn't spend on it before. So then they can raise the prices on those items. Like, does that make any sense? Like the reason inflation exists is exactly like what Neil described, is that people start
When
buying.
consumers can start paying more money,
The consumers
are going to start charging more money.
The consumers are going to start spending that $1,000 a month on different items that, like, I mean, the money that was being redistributed from, like, where that money was going to be spent is different than how the consumer was going to spend it.
Yeah,
Which
I
raised the
agree with
prices
you.
in different areas. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That made sense.
Like, obviously, like Apple, the production cost of an iPhone is like $300, but then they'll charge it by like 4 times as the cost. I don't know how much the Apple phone. But if you're like looking at ramen would like suddenly start charging like $10 for a little bag of ramen, and if that does happen, then it's gonna happen. I just go onto Alibaba, the Chinese Amazon, and then I order some ramen from China or something, which is just as cheap, or do something of that equivalent. Like I could just, in these days, we also compete on the global stage, and
So you think that the global market is going to
prices,
counteract
because
any
people have
inflation?
more money, people are going to find other ways to get cheaper products.
So you think that the global market is going to counteract any inflation that we have?
Yeah.
Are you afraid that that might put some small businesses at a disadvantage because we're pushing but I'll actually no, that argument's kind of stupid, because honestly it's mostly going to be the bigger companies. The smaller companies are always going to cost more, and they're always going to be pushed out of the economy, unfortunately. So yeah, I see that. So you think the global market? Yeah, that makes sense to me. Global market.
And
Do you think-
that's like we like you can
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We assume that what was it? The small businesses will hike up prices, and if they're hiking up prices to a point where they can't compete with the global market, then they're going to drop prices again, and that's where they'll just come back to where they were, and then they'll start succeeding or failing, and then
Well, yeah, that was what I was going to say about smaller businesses. If you do, like much smaller businesses in a certain sense, that people will have more money, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that like want to support their local this or that, and with the extra money they will be able to. So I personally think that'll be a really good thing. Because then, as well as that, you won't, if you've got the money to go out and spend it on your local farmers markets, etc., then you might also stop buying from the big companies certain things.
Right. So yeah, I think that's probably the main argument against TBI we have. And the question is like, I mean, I don't see a world where the prices.
Hey, Neil, you're going in and out. You're cutting in and out.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to hear bad reception. Can you hear me?
Say something now.
Can you hear me? Hello?
No, you're still cutting in and out.
Hello? I'll be back in 2 minutes then. I mean, there's just bad. Just
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things I think there is a problem is,
I'm gonna be right back. Just a second.
yeah. Whee.
Go ahead.
I think there's a problem in like how we are going to really pay for UBI, because if you look at it, in the end, it's all just going to collapse back into the American people. Not to say that it
I I thought you already. I thought you were saying he just paid
You're cutting in and out.
can pay like okay. Okay, I'll talk to him.
Yeah, what were you saying, Justin? Sorry, I had to. It's so hot here. Holy crap.
same.
No, can't imagine what it's like.
No, like my room's like 87 degrees right now.
So
I'm
what were you
actually-
saying?
Yeah, I was saying like if you look back down into UBI where it's like the value added tax, it is a regressive tax. You know, like it taxes more on the lower classes than the higher classes. And when you do like value added taxes, eventually the price ends up just ending up at the end of someone's paycheck. You know, it's not like Amazon's paying for it. Amazon's just going to upcharge their products, and then we're going to end up paying for it when we order things off of Amazon. So, like, I don't think that, let's see, I don't think that the weight, like the overall income gain is overtaken by this, but like a lot of people don't understand how we would pay for it.
Yeah.
And then this is $3 trillion in 1 year. You know, what we did in 2008, that was 4 trillion once. 3 trillion a year, that's a whole new issue of like where we're getting tax revenue and things like that.
Yeah, it's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
I know. It's also an interesting argument too. I hear that a lot, where it's like, oh well, we spent $4 million. And I'm not saying that this is what you said, but like, oh, we spent $4 million in 2008, and
Trillion.
why can't? Yeah, is that what I say? Billion, trillion, in 2008. But it's like, well, you made one dumb. Like I personally think that was a dumb decision. Like if you're making one odd decision, why compare it to something else? Like, oh, we did this dumb thing that what we can just do it again.
Well, the $4 trillion, it wasn't a dumb decision. It was a necessity. But like, it's not like what we're doing with the $3 trillion now. It's not out of necessity. It's just we're doing it for the sake of Americans. Do you understand? Like, what happened in 2008 was that banks would artificially give out.
No. That's 99% of what this podcast was is what me and Neil are talking about.
Yeah. So like, what needed to happen was the bailout. The bailout needed to happen, and there isn't really, you know.
Well, we can talk about that too, but I mean, it depends on where you guys want to go with this discussion. It's fine either way.
So, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just talk about paying for, because you guys were talking about that. I could listen, but I couldn't hear. And I could listen, so I cut off at some point, and I couldn't hear you guys. But, so, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying about how, like, value-added tax, like, we're just going to be paying up with it with our Amazon purchases. But honestly, Amazon purchases, I still feel like that's, like, that's, like, the majority of, like, Amazon purchases are probably coming from the...
Can't hear you, Neil.
Oh, sorry, I was mute. I keep coming. Someone tried to call me. The majority of big Amazon purchases come from. I feel like they probably come from like the big ones, not just like small ones here and there. They come from like the upper 60th percentile, like U.S. Like those are the big ones we're talking about, not just like little things here and there. And the thing is, even if those Amazon prices rise, I really feel like it's not going to be that big of a deal because, again, we're not going to be spending the $1,000 freedom dividend on Amazon. We're going to be spending the $1,000 dividend on paying rent and necessities and, like, again, just going towards these things. Obviously, like you just said, Justin, these $1,000 isn't even enough to live on a month. So honestly, it's really just going to go straight back into the economy, and it's going to go straight because what is this? This $1,000 is basically for the lower 40th percentile of the U.S. And so, yeah, I mean, so I think this is just really going to go basically into back to the economy, paying rent and all that. And I'm not saying I'm all for UBI because I still have concerns about inflation, as I said earlier. But Amazon's prices going up. Honestly, they still Amazon is almost a monopoly, but they do still have competitors. And I mean, there are lots of things. Google has shopping now. You can order things from Google. You can order things from Target, Walmart, internationally, as you said, Justin. So while Amazon prices may go up, I still feel like the majority of that money that's coming out of Amazon and then putting the prices up, it's not going to be a concern to the average American. Their main concern is going to be getting their bills paid, and that $1,000 is obviously going to go towards getting their bills paid. So I don't think paying for it is as much of a problem as inflation.
Yeah. Well, what was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole other part of the UBI that we haven't discussed yet is the social aspect of it. And there's different arguments that, I don't know, like Andrew Yang and other people who are for the UBI, just like, which also I have not really made my mind up yet. The whole, like, if people start spending more of their time on doing creative activities and like starting their own businesses, so it's almost like funding new businesses in an odd way. But on the other hand, I don't really know what to think about that because if you look at people in America who are on welfare, like they're definitely not creating or starting new businesses. It's like,
yeah, but then you also have to adjust that. You can go.
I mean, but that thing is the welfare. It's welfare is different because welfare is used for certain things.
Yeah.
Like the $1,000 is to every single American, absolutely no conditions other than need to be an American citizen. And honestly, but with that being said, I have to call BS on Andrew Yang saying that you're going to be starting a new business. Yeah, then there are going to be a niche amount of Americans that, this $1,000 is going to help me start my own business. Can you give me a $1,000 investment, please? And yeah, is it going to help like a niche amount of Americans? Is it going to have any significant amount or effect? I mean, I call BS on that. I don't see it having any marginal effect on anything. I really don't. I don't see $1,000 a month having any real effect on.
That depends how big you're talking, right? I mean, it could be taken multiple ways, right? Right, it is. So it depends how big that person's wanting to go. If their aim is going to be to have a small business in their community, I see no reason how that wouldn't bring a community closer together. I mean, obviously you're going to have a whole lot of people. I'm saying it depends on how big the person whoever's starting their business. Obviously they want to go as big as possible and see how much money they can make off their business. But if you take someone in a small town who just wants to start up a shop for the sake of the town, or just in their town, for instance, I have a feeling it'll make a difference in communities, especially because there's gonna be more small business. People are gonna be buying from each other with the money they're getting, and I think community-wise, it'll be really good.
Also,
I mean, I kind of see.
What were you gonna say, Justin?
I think Neil cut off.
Yeah, I think it's his phone.
I was saying what you can do with just a pure $1,000 in cash versus what you can do with $500 in food stamps. You can do a lot more, whether in terms of starting a business, eating, because food stamps are very limited.
Yeah, I didn't mean just food stamps.
Yeah, food stamps, but the way we look at welfare, it's there's food stamps, there's social security, which like isn't going to be detracted from it. That's something I also see is like people are going to be living off of both social security and the universal basic income, and they could possibly live off of disability insurance as well. There's a lot of things that could like stack up to a lot of money.
Hmm. Yeah, now I'm making sure this is like Andrew Yang is just proposing to like simplify the welfare system, right?
Yeah, so
Right.
if you just
Like get rid of food stamps and all that jazz and replace it with $1,000.
well, he's saying like you can either do this or you can take the $1,000. So like if you get like food stamps plus a bunch of other welfare programs and it stacks up to more than $1,000 a month, then you can stay with that. You can decide like on your own what you can do better with which
Mm-hmm.
with the welfare, and that's a part of the aspect that I like. But then something that I don't like from that is that we still might end up overspending on welfare, just in case cover the costs. And over time, that's going to fix itself. But at the first slot, it's going to be really expensive.
Yeah, I think Andrew Yang even admitted we're going to have to front the cost for a little bit to collect all the money because he wants to implement it. Like, I don't know if it's in his 100-day plan or not, but honestly, I don't know how it is in his 100-day plan. Okay, so he wants to implement it really quickly. So that basically means that let's assume he gets bipartisan support in Congress, which is already okay. Let's assume both chambers of Congress say yes. He gets it passed. We're gonna have to front the cost. Like, let's be real here. We're not gonna immediately get all the money from Amazon, gonna pay for it, and everyone's kumbaya, no extra money. No, we're gonna have to front the cost. Let's actually see. I'm gonna look up right now. I just got back home, so I can now look up and do the thing. Andrew Yang, how do you pay? UBI. Yeah, you can keep talking about it. Let me know this country. How exactly? Like his entire plan has been paid for it. How would we pay for the freedom dividend here? So it would be easier. It would be easier than you might think. Andrew proposes funding for freedom dividend by consolidating some welfare programs and implementing a value-added tax of 10%. Current welfare social program beneficiaries would be given a choice between their current benefits of $1,000 cash unconditionally. Most would prefer the cash with no restriction, obviously. A value-added tax, or VAT, is a tax on the production of goods or services a business produces. It is a fair tax and makes it much harder for large corporations who are experts at hiding profits and income to avoid paying their fair share. A value-added tax is nothing new. 160 out of 193 countries in the world already have a value-added tax or something similar, including all of Europe, which has an average value-added tax of 20%. The means to pay the freedom dividend from four sources. Current spending: you're currently spending $500 and $600 billion, between $500 and $600 billion a year on welfare programs, food stamps, disability, and the like. This reduces the cost of the freedom dividend because people already receiving benefits would have the choice, but would be ineligible to receive the full $1,000 in addition to current benefits. Additionally, so this is making an assumption. So can we confirm that, like, is it going to cost more or less for, like, what costs more? Does $1,000? Because if we're just giving people a choice, like, let's say 50% of Americans take the freedom, like, I'm just estimating, this is probably not true. 50% of Americans take the freedom dividend, 50% of Americans stay on their current welfare. Like, that's probably still going to be a net bigger cost, right? Because transferring any program is almost always cost more money. And
because less than 25% of America is like actually using welfare,
right?
In most proportions, yeah.
This is kind of misleading, Mr. Andrew. This says, I don't think current spending. Yeah, it's not gonna cover it. It's if anything, this is an argument that's saying it's gonna cost more. Additionally, we currently spend over.
Because what current welfare is, it only extends to a small portion of the population that's actually like suffering a lot. What Andrew Yang is proposing through UBI is it's giving it to everyone equally, which, it gives a sense of equity, but at the same time, you're gonna get like way more cost out of this. Like if If you go from 25% to 50%, you're almost doubling the cost that you would initially have to bear the brunt of.
Right. And yeah. So he also says, additionally, we currently spend over $1 trillion on healthcare, incarceration, homeless services, and the like. We would save 100 to 200 plus billion dollars as people would take better care of themselves and avoid the emergency room, jail, and the street would generally be more functional. The freedom dividend would pay for itself by helping people avoid our institutions, which would generally, so that this I would agree with. Like, people don't really understand, like, homeless services, like when homeless people like have heart attacks or something and they go to a hospital, that costs a lot of money. And just paying for, and like all the homeless benefits that there aren't a lot. I'm not saying that every homeless person has like access to benefits. I'm saying we spend a lot on it. But yeah, that does so it would be, because we spend like a crap ton on that, and $1,000 a month is in some places, like in quite a few places, enough to pay rent, and it's actually really hard to get a job unless you have a place to live. So like if a homeless person people like, oh, walk into a McDonald's and get a job, you lazy ass, like you know, this classic. You're just talking about American benefit. That's basically what it is. The problem with that is they ask for an address, a billing address, and if you can't give them an address, then they basically don't hire you, because they don't want to hire homeless people. So like, why would they hire their whole thought is like, why would they hire a homeless person that may not have the same, I don't know, that may have problems or something else, when we can hire 10 other people that have places to live. So they just don't hire homeless people. So if we just gave them, if they were able to have a house, which is why a government program that's been in limited implementation is literally, it's give homeless people houses. Like, they actually give homeless people houses, and then they front the cost for half a year, 6 months, and then they're self-sufficient, and it actually costs the government less money. And this would probably cost even less money than that. So I would see a benefit with that. So I can't hear you.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Justin.
Yeah, you also have to look at where homeless people like collect, like gather. Like they gather in like big cities. You don't see homeless people.
Yeah, that was my main concern. It's probably gonna be higher rent there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot higher rent there. Like in the city of Houston itself, rent is almost like $1,200 for the equivalent of my room. Like, and then in New York City, you'd get like $1,200 for my closet. And then if you compare it to like out in the country, you'd have to $1,000 a month wouldn't be able. I don't think it would be able to sustain like homelessness. In New York, I don't think they would be able to find any place of housing within a reasonable. I don't think it would be as effective as anything they're doing right now, if they're doing anything at all.
Well, I mean, I don't personally know about what they're doing at the moment, but in terms of homelessness and the way that would work, I mean, I suppose big cities are way more expensive and such like that. But if you think about giving them $1,000 a month and starting like really slowly.
Yeah, and then there's also a question of how do you give a homeless person $1,000? It's not like they have their own banking account.
Right. See, I think I don't know how he wants to give it. I think you'd have to I don't know how he said he wanted to give it. I would assume there'd be an area where I'd assume there'd be a way to give it cash, deposit, because some Americans don't even have bank accounts.
Yeah.
And not like some Americans that aren't even homeless and they don't have bank accounts. Like, they just don't want a bank account. So, yeah, I don't know how that would work. Additionally, a value-added tax. Our economy is now incredibly vast at $19 trillion, up $4 trillion in the last 10 years alone. A value-added tax at half the European level would generate $800 billion in revenue. A value-added tax will become more and more important as technology improves, because you cannot collect income tax from robots or software. Right. See, that's the thing. I've always agreed with the value-added tax, regardless of UBI. because we just income tax. First of all, income tax, you're basically just taking more from the American people, and then corporate tax. Corporations can get away from corporate tax so easily by putting their money in foreign shores. So yeah, value-added tax would definitely help with that, especially with companies like Amazon paying almost nothing in taxes. So a new revenue, putting money into the hands of American consumers would grow the economy. The Roosevelt Institute projected that the economy would grow by approximately $2.5 trillion and create 4.6 million new jobs per pound. This would generate approximately $800.
Oh, or were you reading the how?
No, I literally asked how. Like I stopped.
Oh, yeah. So what happens is like when you get $1,000 and then you go out to eat in a restaurant because, you have $1,000 now.
Yeah, I got it.
And then like restaurants get more busy because people can afford to go eat there.
You put money into
more people. Huh?
I am interested to see if there's a part.
I think Andrew Yang actually used the term trickle up economics.
Yeah. Oh, Julia, you were saying something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it. I didn't really hear much about what you said, how, but I was interested to see has it said anything about how exactly he plans to distribute like $1,000 to every single.
He definitely has. Let me look that up because we were just talking about that. Oh, I saw that on the website.
That's what I think too is interesting too when you hear people talk about like America just spent, I don't know, some amount of billions of dollars on NASA, but it's like the money NASA spent on the materials to make the rockets and to hire the engineers is going back into the economy. It's not just being thrown into the air and burnt.
People don't understand that NASA, like space programs, I don't know, this is kind of a tangent, but space programs, they increase living quality of life on like the research that's done.
Yeah, they don't understand like the entire GPS system is a U.S. tax funded venture, and it still is to this day until about when SpaceX starts shooting rockets up into the air.
Right, and now we have which type of tire? There's some type of tire that only exists because of space exploration or space experimentation.
Yeah, and
so even simple things like that. But yeah, anyway, that's it. So policies, dividend. Yeah, dividend. How are you going to give it to us?
What are you looking at, Neil?
I'm trying to find out how to give it to people.
What?
We want to see. Yeah, how's he gonna give the $1,000 to people?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that's something to figure out.
There's another thing I've been thinking about too, because like a lot of I know me and Neil are both like, I don't know, like kind of socially liberal but economically libertarian. I don't even know how that fits into a general libertarian mindset, a UBI style.
I don't an offshoot.
Because I know a general amount of libertarians are just straight up not for taxation at all.
Yeah.
Right. Those are yeah. I'm gonna
there's a lot of those here.
Disconnect my thumb.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna disconnect for like a second.
Which is always interesting to me. That whole thought process just kind of freaked me out. Like I used to think it was kind of a joke, like taxation is theft, and the more I think about it, the more interesting I feel like.
The way I see taxation is it's mostly for public investment, or that's the best way it should be.
That is, yeah, that's how I feel like
public
it should
investment
be.
or giving back to like those who need it.
I feel like some of the art, yeah.
And actually, one of the things I do agree with in Texas is that we don't have a statewide income tax. I don't agree with the proposition that
most states don't have income tax.
Huh?
I think most states don't have income tax. Most income tax is just federal.
No, like on the state level, Because I also lived in Pennsylvania. They did have you had to pay income tax to the township, county, uh, state, federal. It was like a huge mess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, all Pennsylvania's a huge mess. Yeah, so like I don't know, just logically and morally, I feel like it should be an investment in the people and the public, but like a forced investment seems more like theft than
Yeah.
like if you're being forced. Just think, man, a forced investment into the public sounds like theft. If you're
Oh,
forced to do it.
Neil,
Yeah.
Jim.
So 7 states have do not have
No.
illegal
Yeah.
income tax. So it's Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. They don't have any personal income tax. And 2 states, New Hampshire and Tennessee, don't tax wages, but do tax investment and interest, investment income and interest. Which I definitely agree with. We do tax investments.
Yeah,
That's
I
like-
agree that capital gains does need to be taxed. You know,
Yeah, that's
like,
ridiculous. That's how Bill Gates doesn't make money off his salary; it's from his capital gains. Like, I mean,
yeah. And then, but like, what people earn in their salary is what they work for. So like, I don't think you should take away from what they've worked for. I think you should take away from something like they just sat there and threw some money at an investment, and then they suddenly earn like $1 billion. And that's where most of,
That's where most of the wealth, yeah,
yeah.
comes from in America. It's definitely, it's like being able to put a taxation on people's gambling. That's how I heard it. I forget where. But like, because essentially it's gambling. Like, you don't know if you're going to make your money back. But I don't know. The whole thing with taxation is so interesting to me. It's like, I don't really know where I understand, like, wanting to put money, I feel like personally I would want to, but it's like an opting, just like my own principles.
And then another thing is like what we see with the government is it's really inefficient with money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredibly.
Yeah, so like especially with the
I like
United
to
States.
get back in the hands of Americans.
What'd you say?
I said, and that's why I personally. I mean, I'm not.
That's why I agree with the like
Yeah.
instead of just wasting it on how we can see to put it in a welfare fund, I would rather just have it like sent directly to an American, and then if they fuck up, then it's their problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the thing. And honestly, the average American is much less likely to fuck up than the government, which is
Well-
either. I mean,
Also,
Just
like once you have money for yourself, that's when you start realizing that like you want more money. It's like there's like a psychological thing. It's like once people start earning money, they start hoarding money and stuff like that. They start valuing money more once they have money. And I
Right.
think like once you give people money to spend, they might start like learning how to be financially literate, as opposed to like,
You having no clue.
having no clue what to spend their money on, or like
Yeah, 'cause they've
going out
never
and
had
buying
money.
a $5 hot dog in Manhattan.
Yeah, I feel like like if you don't have any money, it's like you just know you spend money on exactly what you need. Like there's nothing beyond that. It's like who the fuck has time to save money or have investments when I just need to buy food
Yeah.
or have a house? Like there's just no time to
So-
really care about having a financial life.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I wasn't
Go
saying
ahead.
anything.
Nobody was talking.
Okay. So Andrew Yang I have a video now. Andrew Yang answers your UBI question, 2 minutes long. Let's just skim it and see. I'm gonna see if he answers the
Can you
question.
screen share?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, all my tabs are open.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
I know. It's pretty freaking pathetic. So let's see.
So with an economy as big and complex as ours, you wouldn't want to do it all at once. But in our first year, we're going to make sure that money's going out to Americans so we can start studying the effects both on a family basis and also community-wide. And then over the course of my first term, we're going to phase it in for more and more Americans. Because everyone knows that if Andrew Yang is president in 2021, it's because Americans want that freedom dividend, and that's what we're going to deliver. And the answer is they would. And there are a few great reasons for that. Number one, we are funding this with a consumption tax.
So I don't think we care about the wealthy. So we're going to...
Currently receiving
will UBI affect my Social Security?
Big change we have.
Where would the money come from? We have the value added tax. I want to get to how he's going to pay for it. Okay, he doesn't freaking answer that question. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. Then I'm going to look for it again because Andrew Yang doesn't like to answer that question. I'm surprised no one asked how am I going to get my money? Like if these are just regular people asking me questions, I'm surprised no one asked how am I going to get my money?
What she's been saying the entire time is like, you know, and it's actually pretty true. It's like the government, it's not very good with money, but it's like a professional at like finding people and writing checks to them. And that's what he's basically been writing.
Yeah, I saw a great little meme. It was like, why taxation is so weird in America. It's like, if you're new to taxation, you're like, oh, well, how much do I have to pay? And it's like, oh, you have to figure that out yourself. And it's like, but what if I'm wrong? And it's like, then you go to jail. And it's like, then why don't you just tell me how much I have to pay? And they're like, ha ha ha. Like, we know exactly how much you owe, but we're not going to tell you. You have to figure it out for yourself.
Companies like H&R Block actually lobby billions of dollars into Congress to make sure that, because the IRS already calculates how much you're supposed to pay into.
Yeah, like somebody has to know how much you owe.
And then one of Andrew Yang's policies is to like get rid of this, just simplify it. They send you the bill and then you verify it. And I think that's a lot better than, you know, having to figure it out and then being wrong and then getting arrested.
I've been driven.
Did you mean to do that, Neil?
No, I didn't. Every time I click on a YouTube video to see if he answers a question, I have to immediately pause it, and there's like a second. I just hear Andrew Yang's voice being blasted over the speakers.
Andrew Yang. But no,
it's pretty interesting because if you look at like, if I just like Google it and stuff and like, how does he plan to distribute the money? It's like everything, like all these other questions people have asked, except there isn't an answer to this one specifically. It's like, oh, okay, this is how much he wants to give everyone. This is how he, this is like, you know, it's $1,000 a month, but nothing actually tells you how he plans to give it.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely interesting. I know it's just cool too. I was talking about it with my friend last night about just like how crazy the fact that AI exists and to the extent that it's been growing. And really we were just talking about it fundamentally about like it learning games, like different AIs learning games. Like we were talking about, I don't know if you guys have seen it, it's a documentary about that Google AI learning how to play that game Go.
Yeah, DeepMind. Yeah, Go.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was
and then they took that same AI and put it on like StarCraft or something.
No, yeah, they put it in Dota 2.
Yeah, and then they ran it for 9 hours and it began contesting professionals.
Yeah, it actually, I think it took longer than that because
it was either 9 hours or 9 days, something like that.
So what happened was, I believe they started training it, and because since like Go has a set amount of things you can do, just like I guess every game, but it's still just math that a computer can calculate. But like MMO like League of Legends or Dota is so much beyond that. Like just the amount of...
Actually, I think Go is a lot similar to like how... I don't play League of Legends or anything, but the way I see it, I think Go is a lot similar to it because it's about gaining territory and you can always lose pieces in Go.
It is, but I think it's significantly more complex than Go. Dota.
Yeah.
Like
it is. Dota is more complex. Okay, so Neil has found it.
Okay.
Receive a check for $1,000 a month, starting in January 21.
January 2021. Okay, so here's the main problem. Here's the biggest problem I've already seen. So the biggest problem is obviously, again, we are talking about homeless people. How am I going to get my check? So he clearly thinks that homeless people are going to be able to get this check somehow. So what? You walk into a government building, you're like, "Hi, I'd like my check, please, for $1,000." Okay. How do I prove you're you, and how do I prove that you haven't received this money earlier this month? Like I can already see that being a problem. Obviously, if you have an address, it's not a problem, right? You just write down. They know the government knows your address. They send you $1,000 and done, right?
Like for that, they'd have to create a whole new system to track and make sure that everyone is getting only $1,000 a month and not more.
That just sets off like a government alert meter of like them screwing something up. I mean,
Well, there's always blockchain, you know.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, how's a homeless guy gonna have? I guess
That's true.
Yes,
That's true.
a homeless guy's gonna have access to blockchain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good idea, but we're gonna have to have like ATMs built with like connection to have blockchain.
I mean, I don't see, I can see it working for like 85% of America, but then all of a sudden, like, there's going to be a huge problem paying the rest of America. Like, I don't know, is he going to like walk out on the street and hand people $1,000? Like,
Angie Ain's gonna walk down the street handing out like he's gonna make it rain on like
handing out $1,000 bill. Yeah, and then he can put his face on it too. Yeah, that's pretty weird. I mean, unless he's like creating a bank account for every single American.
And that's already a controversial thing because
Yeah,
yeah.
It's already forcing people to have a bank account.
Yeah, and then like I believe in Philadelphia, let's see, there was something about like trying to give everyone a bank account, and the local community like fought back against it.
Yeah, rightfully so because of a little thing called fractional reserve banking. If anyone's heard of that, that might be a reason. It's basically just a drain on the economy, and it's probably one of the reasons. It's just like
Just horrible. All around absolutely trash.
One
One of the worst ideas ever conceived by humans.
One of the most, not worse, one of the most evil ideas ever conceived by...
No, fractional reserve lending. That's what we're talking
Oh, okay.
Fractional reserve...
Not just banking.
It's not evil. It's called extortionist.
Yeah, it's...
So like in an ideal world where everyone pays back, it would work, and then you would earn more money. And that's how it worked like in the past.
But people don't.
Well, no, the thing is that the banks don't have to keep all your money. They can literally lie to you and say you have $1,000 in your bank account. Meanwhile, they can take away like $800, and
that just creates more inflation in the in the economy.
Way more
inflation. You're printing more money. You're printing more money.
In the like actual economics class, they talk about like what banks do. They basically multiply the amount of money in the system. Because they take $1,000.
Definitely,
I think it's actually quite effective at like perpetuating the effect of money. Like you can have just $1,000, but you can have the impact of like $9,000 or something with a bank. Whereas like, so like I wouldn't call it an evil concept.
But I can see what you're saying. It pumps more money into the economy. You're saying it pumps more money into the economy. Because it's allowing more people to get.
Because it's just creating more money. You just don't know that more money exists.
I also like the idea that it goes through a private banking system. Like it goes through a private that literally takes your money and doubles it. Like you know what I mean? Like I just like the idea that it goes through a private entity that literally takes your money and doubles it. It's also like it's a symbol, you know. Like I just find it really abhorrent that they can do that. And I mean, obviously there's a reason why so they can give out loans, make it easier for loans. But doing that through I'm all for public sector things, or sorry, private sector things. But doing things through the private sector when it comes to literally stealing people's money, that's where I draw the line, kind of. But, what were we talking about before?
We're talking a little bit about
checks. Yeah, and how I don't know how Andrew's going to do that. Also, again,
because it makes it sound very appealing for people that think it's a good idea. Like, okay, we're just going to get a check every month. but you're not taking into consideration people who
I mean,
don't
it
have
sounds
bank
great for the
accounts.
I'm
And
sure it sounds fine for the four of us. You get a check in the mail, you deposit it in your bank account. I mean, but that's the thing. A lot of checks, I don't know how exact checks, I think you have to get like a certain, isn't there like a certain type of check you have to get it directly in like money? Like a
Yeah, direct deposit. Yeah.
cashier's check. You need like a certain type of check for it to be,
No. You don't need
No,
Okay.
anything special.
okay.
You just need a checking account, and then you
Here's
get
the thing.
checks.
The thing. What if I don't have a checking account?
You make one.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You need a cash. I have to get a cashier's check. You'd have to put it in cashier's check, and homeless people don't have bank accounts. Like,
Yeah.
I like to deposit my income for today, like $2 in a pack of gum. Like, I mean, not gonna work. I mean, they need to give it in a cashier's check. And a cashier's, I think it's like the same as money or whatever. Like you give it, or like a certain type of check where you get the same as money. Because the thing is, a regular check.
yeah, you sound so freaking entitled. Like,
But the government shouldn't require me to have a bank account. That's going to cause inflation right there.
no, I don't even disagree with you. I'm just saying. Ew.
Entitled to what? The right to not.
No, it's just I'm just saying it is immoral to force somebody to participate in a business, in a private
Yeah.
sector
They're
business,
literally forcing me to participate they giving money to the private sector.
which is just like I feel like just an ethical problem right off the bat when the government is forcing you to.
And when
participate in
since
in a-
100% of people are eligible, the government isn't really forcing you. Not incentivizing you. They're basically taking, since every other American has $1,000 more and you have $1,000 less, they're literally punishing you for not having a bank account. They're not rewarding you for having one. When it comes to the point where 85, we're saying, throwing on the number, 85% of Americans, probably more than that, get the money, it puts you not at an advantage to have one. It puts you at a disadvantage to not have one. I know that sounds like the same thing, but it really isn't, because an advantage is just like an advantage to other people. But if everybody else has the exact same opportunity, if you're part of the minority that doesn't have the exact same opportunity, they aren't at an advantage. You're at a disadvantage. They're literally punishing you for not owning a bank account. So, I mean, obviously, this doesn't, I'm not completely like, oh, UBI sucks just because of that one thing. It's more just like a niche problem that I have with it. But I don't know. Maybe I feel like it have to be kind of like a cashier's check type thing where you just get it and you get money, because like, I
Or
don't.
it could come through money orders. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then, like, how do you track down every single American?
That's the other
Make sure
thing.
that they get their money order.
Well, the easy thing is an address, right? But again, homeless people.
You need an address, or you need like a name or a social security number.
Honestly, everybody has $1,000
Social
more
security numbers. Like my dad he shares his social security number with someone in Kansas.
What? That's,
Yeah.
I guess that shows the effectiveness of the United States Social Security system. It's
Yeah.
it's not even Social Security it's the retirement thing. They just stole the tax firm just stole that number, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, I mean, it's just
so, I mean,
yeah.
it's like, it sounds very plain off the bat and very like simple and straightforward, but it really isn't. And it would probably like to create a system to make sure that everyone is only getting $1,000 is going to firstly cost a lot of money to run, to upkeep. And then, well, I mean, obviously you got to take into factor that they would be maybe, I don't know exactly, I haven't read it completely. So would they be canceling or not continuing any other welfare, whatchamacallit? But I mean,
Right. They're not.
I just don't see how it would work. Oh yeah, you said that they can choose to continue with what they have.
Wait a minute, I'm
or
such
up to
a
the-
moron. Oh shoot. Oh my god, so stupid. We're sitting here estimating how much like it would cost the $1,000 a month versus the welfare. All we have to do is get the amount of Americans on welfare and like divide it with them. Like it shouldn't be that hard. And divide it by the cost. And then we can calculate roughly by, the amount of money it's going to cost,
Well,
1,000.
America spends more money on Social Security than the military. That's the
Yeah. Well, we have the obligation to help our elders, I guess.
Well, Social Security is kind of different.
Social Security is like a scam if you think about it.
It's already a freaking pyramid scheme. Literally, not even
It's
just like,
literally a pyramid scheme. You pay into it when you're young.
that's like
Get
one of
out of
the
it.
that's like one of the problems. What? It was like either Denmark or something. They were running those crazy ads where they were telling people, like couples, to go on vacations and like have sex, have more babies, so that they
Yeah.
could fund the social security, like the
Because like right now in America, the fertility rate's 1.83 or something. Like if we have a smaller population started, how are we gonna pay for like the baby boomers?
Damn.
and
yeah, like the money. It's not
110
like
million Americans are on welfare. That's a shit ton. Oh my god.
how many new?
110 million.
Oh fuck.
That's damn. Okay.
No, like yeah. It's,
well,
it's
also
definitely-
like the way it was in my high school, if you go like after school, you could also receive like food stamps or like extra food stamp foods. Because like I don't know, my community was kind of poor, so they just kind of gave it to everybody who walked by.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but
So that's that. Like I didn't even have to be poor. I could just I could be
Right,
Bill
but
Gates'
that's
son
like-
and just walk by and collect welfare.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what's wrong with this country. Them buying lobster. Remember when do you guys remember when lobster dinner was such a big thing? Like some guy bought lobster dinner with food stamps and like people collectively lost their minds. Do you remember where that whole thing happened? Does anyone remember that? Now it was pretty. It was a huge deal. People lost their minds, especially like the really conservative Americans in the South. They lost their
Yeah,
minds.
people
They
in
got
Texas,
so-
they're like,
they
if
got
you do
so
anything, if you do anything like with my money,
I know.
then it's like they feel like when they succeed getting help, that they've like cheated the rest of America
No.
somehow. I don't understand that.
The second I know people literally freaked out. Like the whole someone I took a crappy video on like iPhone of some guy buying some lobster with a food stamp, and people tried to question the whole system right there. I'm like, oh my god, these people need to chill out. Jesus Christ. Also, if he's buying that lobster with food stamp, it's probably some cheap ass lobster. Okay, so chill. I mean, it's not like
I mean, lobsters in like Boston are really cheap.
I know.
Yeah, so
Chill, bro. No, I think we should explain the social Social Security, which is just like because I feel like a lot of Americans have this.
It's what you're writing a check for, and you don't know what the fuck it is. That's what it is, okay? You're writing a check for it. All right, that's what it is. That's what you're writing, all right? That's what you're writing your check for. That's what's being. Why does that keep getting deducted from my bank account? I see that. That's what it is. It's basically just okay. It's like a savings account, but it's forced on you by the government, and they'll take as much money out of it as they want.
And also, it's not even safe for you.
And it's not for you.
So basically, like
until you're like 65.
yeah,
Okay.
then the young people start paying your money.
Yeah,
Start-
so basically, you give money to the government. The government, and as they are, eternally wise and good with your money, they keep their money in a big box, okay? And then when someone's old, they give to open. Here you are, old person. Take this money. And so basically, it's like if past you didn't save enough money for future you to live in retirement, the government gives you like a certain amount of money. But it's just become this massive amount of like wealth that if we just like almost like I'd almost be in favor. I mean, it's basically kind of like people try to think of it as like an account that's yours that the government requires you to pay into, but it really isn't, because if you pay a lot of money to that account, you'll have less. They'll still give you the same amount of money. Like it doesn't matter. It's just another tax.
Mm.
So America spends $668 billion. So
And then not to mention, you can also like abuse pension things from your employment to earn like more and more money. And
$68 billion divided by 10 equals. Okay, so $668 billion divided by 110 million Americans account is approximately $6,072.72 per American. So we pay on average $6,100 on every American on welfare. Yeah. And if so, Yeah, now Andrew Yang's saying doesn't seem so stupid now that I'm thinking
What
about
did you say?
it. $6,072.72.
Yeah, so you have to think about that
Wait a minute, per year.
doubling that.
Hold up. Per year. That was per year. Okay, so per year divided by 12. So actually only $506 per month. So we are going to be doubling it. You're right.
Yeah, so we're doubling that amount and then extending it to 100% of the population for what in these like small experiments that I've looked at, it says that there's been marginal improvement at the best, but that's because, you know, they've only stuck it in the hands of like really poor people. So like, you know,
It's so interesting too because even when you do like economic studies, it's really difficult to tell. Like when they did that study about raising the minimum wage to $15 in Seattle or whatever, like at the same time there's a huge economic boom because of like a technology boom. It's just so hard to like see a difference because there's so many factors into how the economy runs.
yeah.
But it would just be like, is he talking at all about taking money away from the government to pay for the, like from the military?
We'd be taking, no. Well, first of all, I'm not even in support of cutting the military because the military-industrial complex okay, the crude, I'm going to give a crude example. You're taking away money from the military. Okay, so you take away money from the big buff guy that steals all your money. You take it away. But in turn, you go over to turn to this nicely your friend, the economy, and you kick him square in the balls. And that's what taking the money away from the military is like. You kick the economy because of the military-industrial complex.
It's dependent on it.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate truth. We can't take money away from the military because if you take money away from the military, you're basically you're backhanding the economy. Like it's really going to hurt in America because of the military-industrial complex. Yeah, it's.
All right, Neil, you want to talk about Bigfoot now? No, just joking. I did actually. I do not want to talk about Bigfoot, but I was talking to somebody the other day, and he was like, the Catholics are keeping Bigfoot hostage because they don't want to prove that there's an evolution exists because there's a clear evolutionary leap, and Bigfoot is like the chain that proves evolution exists, and that the Catholics are hiding it. Like what? It's
I
like
believe that. I 100% believe that.
interesting.
I 100% believe that. And that makes total sense to me.
Wait, so what did you say about the military-industrial?
So taking money away from the military to pay for anything is a horrible idea because the way America's economy is built is
Like on the foundation of the military.
every cent we spend on the military is put directly into the economy. And since we spent so much money on the military, our economy is now linked to the military. They are now intertwined.
That's like what the military-industrial complex is.
Like all of these companies, Boeing, Lockheed, all these massive companies are all directly connected to the military in some form or another. And it's not even just that. It's like even simple like services.
Yeah, like Neil, even the company your dad works for, the SAP, they're like that's one of the biggest.
Yeah, software is given. Like,
and that's how the government is basically ran. How the whole military is ran is on SAP.
Right. So every single thing, if we cut the military budget, it's kind of funny because America's economy is all like free, no government spending on the economy, but we want to spend money in the military. It's hilarious because they don't know what they're talking about. Like, the more money we spend in the military, the more money we're spending.
I would like to say that this is not something that I like.
No, it's not a good
this
thing.
is
The military-industrial complex is an evil, horrible thing. The problem is that it's never going to go away, and we have to live with it.
You're already dependent on it.
The only way to make it go away is to cut the military budget by a massive amount, but that will drive us into a huge depression, which we can't afford.
I feel like if you slowly start chopping away at it and invest it properly back into the economy with like public projects or like NASA or something.
Yeah. I would definitely like.
In a dream world, I would be in favor.
Yeah, like I would love to hear that in a dream world, but like
in a dream.
There's the government margin for there's the government margin for error, which is like
enormous.
Screw something up. The other thing is like good luck getting the congressman paid off by these companies to go. I agree with that. Like
yeah, that's true.
Like, I mean, it's kind of an appeal to
The
futility.
government invest money properly? Whoa. Crazy.
I know.
But,
It's so funny. No, I don't think there's any American that has like confidence in the government.
it's just so interesting how like the government projects are ran, whereas like almost the FBI and the police agencies are almost, and this is just an example, are almost encouraged to do a bad job. Same with like construction workers, like publicly funded construction workers. Is like if you do a bad job, you just get paid to do it again. Like
Yeah,
it's
and
like
I
it's not
think
like
that's like it's like a cultural thing in America, or if you look at like workers in Japan, like I saw this meme once. They took a picture of like a pothole in Japan. It was like a massive pothole, like one that spanned like a 6-lane street, and it like fell in, and then they filled it within a week, and then they took a picture of a pothole in the United States, and it was from the 1980s, and then they took a picture of a regular man from 2016, and nothing changed. And
Yeah.
I find it ironic, like some
Well, if you cut these
people like
bonds, they have like
in America, like people are just less incentivized to work properly if they're not doing it for competition's sake. So like if when the government hires you, you know, you don't have very much competition. But like when you're doing it as a private contractor, then you have a lot of competition. Then you need to do it properly.
cough cough. Amtrak is shit.
Amtrak sucks.
Yeah.
Metro sucks. Trash.
Like in America, the public transportation is absolute trash, and taxis taxis were incredibly expensive. New York before Uber, I remember going to New York and I was like, it cost like $20 freaking to go from like to take like a small journey, and it was incredible.
Well,
And
you
I
should
sit down
come
in the taxi.
to you should come to South Africa.
Is it worse?
Our public transportation is.
Yeah.
You don't even want to know about it. Okay, take an Uber, right?
Yeah,
I think the journey was about. Okay, first of all, I actually live in a town
takes over.
that doesn't have an Uber. Like in most of the province, or I guess you guys would call it a state, like it doesn't have Uber, right? And then two is in the main cities, Uber is like the most flippin' expensive thing ever. So, I think the airport was like at least, okay, say 20 minutes away from where we were staying. For 3 of us to go to the airport, it costed us, wait, let me put this in dollars quickly. Because you guys probably wouldn't understand how many.
Maybe we would not understand any.
It costed us almost $40 to go 25 to 30 minutes.
oh wow.
I don't understand any currency.
It costs
underneath.
1
God we
trillion.
trust right here. Abraham Lincoln ascended to heaven. With God and Jesus on his side.
Yeah, and then another thing is like the government also hampers a lot of development in transportation. Like where I live in Houston. Oh god, even though it's like a Democratic stronghold here, like the amount of money that goes into like
Texas
making
is
sure
last.
Metro is a piece of shit is like no, like okay. When you go into downtown Houston and you stand by the Metro bus station, there's some people who like, I've heard stories of like, there's politicians who go and pay hobos to take a shit on a bus stop.
Wait, what? They pay politics. They don't think it's a bus stop, and they're like, "I can fix that." Like they're like, "I can fix that" or something. And they're like, stopping the hobo.
Yeah, or like the point is like in Houston, people are like so interdependent on cars. I can't get to downtown Houston without a car in the next day without hitchhiking or something. And it's like absurd that like the amount of there's a lot of lobbying that goes into this. And in addition, like they'll like prevent people from working on like metro trains, which have like gunshots in the windows.
Mhm. Yeah, I know, it's interesting. Like around me at least, 'cause Neil lives a little bit away from me. By car, it would take like 20 minutes to get into Philadelphia from where I live.
That's the only thing public transportation is good.
And-
Patco is really good here.
Yeah, and Patco's really, but like, so it's just getting to Patco is the hard part. Like, that's like the whole trip. So you have to take a bus, and the bus system is ass here.
But New
ass.
Jersey
It
Transit,
takes like,
oh my
it would,
God.
I looked it up.
Every
It
time I
would
get on
take,
a New Jersey Transit thing, I don't get on. I love trains. I love getting on New Jersey Transit trains because I just like trains in general. But every time I get on, like their seats are like, oh my God, it's like, and then there's like this one, the train in New York City, like they have, these seats are so weird and like screwed up. Like you have, like, I don't know how to even describe it, but yeah. Have you taken the bus, New Jersey Transit bus?
I've not taken a bus ever, even though there's a bus stop literally right outside of my house. And it takes like 2 hours to get into Philadelphia. It takes like an hour and a half to get to the bus stops from where I live, or to get to the train stop from where I live.
If you
on a bus.
If you want to look it up, Dylan's address is 1, 2, 3.
It's not, no. And so that's like I think the bus system is just ass here. And there's only like one train line to get into Philly from where I live for like a 20-mile radius around my house, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, but like compare that to like the city of Houston.
No, I'm not saying it's better here than in Houston. I'm sure.
It's a lot better. Like I remember you could go places from the airport in Philly. In Houston, you can't go anywhere. You walk down a toll road. Or you can hire an Uber. There's like shuttle services that like cost $30 to go to downtown Houston, which is trash. Yeah.
Well, Houston's interesting. They don't have zoning laws, right?
You can have a
laws are the most racist
right next to a school
thing ever.
The closest thing to my 6A school, my 6A high school, the closest thing to it was a bar.
That's funny.
Great.
And then the bar burned down. But like, yeah.
USA.
Yeah, that's funny.
July. There you go.
I don't know. Yeah, so I think do you guys have anything else to say about the UBI? We can start to close down the podcast a little bit because we can stop whenever we'd like.
All right. Where's Jim?
Oh, we don't. He isn't. He's not here. What happens is we'll just say when we want to stop, and the podcast will stop.
Okay.
But so
Full control.
yeah. So well, it's not us. It's Big E. But so all right. So I guess you want to kind of just got into like bitching about the government, which is I'm always okay with that. I love that. I'm always good with that. As a proud American, there's nothing more American than complaining about the government. Honestly, like I don't think there is anything. Honestly, there's nothing more patriotic than complaining about your own government. I don't think anyone does it more. Anyways, all right. So closing statements on UBI. Dylan, you want to go?
Sure. Still pretty much as neutral as I was on it before. I feel like I just need more information. Like there's so many aspects to giving $1,000 to everybody. Like it seems like such a simple
as I want $1,000 more. He wants $1,000 more. Well, just give it.
But when you're putting it on at a scale of 300 million people, and all of which are incredibly independent and all have very strong ideals and principles that they're willing to fight for, seems like it can be a bit of a mess. And in that sense, very centrist. But honestly, I have no fucking clue. Like it's just too crazy. 300 million people is so many people, and I'm not happy with how our system is now. So I'm always open to ideas. It's interesting to me, though.
Light turn off?
Just new ideas.
I think his light turned off.
Okay.
My light?
Yeah.
No, it's just getting dark where I am, and the light's on one half of my room, and the other half doesn't work.
Getting dark?
It's been dark for like hours over here.
Like outside, it's getting darker.
Like the clouds?
No, like the sun is going down.
It doesn't set until like 8:30, Dylan. What? It's 5:30.
I don't know. Maybe it's behind my... Oh, it's raining. It's a thunderstorm. That's what it is.
Oh, it's raining.
I couldn't see.
You couldn't hear?
No.
That rain better not come here. It's sunny.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
The best show ever. Anyways, I guess I'll say my closing statement. All right, so UBI, I hate taking a centrist position because it's such a cop out a lot of times. Like people just like say it because but I honestly have no freaking clue. Like, okay, in favor of you, we've talked about it. There's so many nuances. I'd say maybe I'm slightly more in favor than opposed to it simply because of the welfare. But just because of all the complexities of it, like logistics of it, would it actually help homeless people? How much is it actually
Accessible.
Yeah, how accessible is it going to be? How is it going to cause inflation? And that is that's still my biggest concern. Honestly, Andrew, sorry, my biggest concern is still inflation. Like if every consumer has $1,000 more, how are the production prices not going to go up? I'm not saying that it might not. Maybe there's like a margin.
Not the production prices, but like the different
production prices. Sorry, the retail prices. Obviously, production prices won't go up. Production prices are the same. But yeah, I don't see a world where if everyone has $1,000 more, people don't start charging more. And I'm not saying everyone's going to start charging $1,000 more for everything, or you know what I mean, like relatively what I mean. But yeah, the only argument against inflation that I see is that a lot of it's just going to be put directly into paying bills and stuff, which still, well, no, but that still gives you $1,000 more to spend on other things. Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Okay, well, in terms of mine, you already said quite a lot. I think I can't say I've made up my mind as to whether I think it's. I'd say I'm pretty much on the fence about this. Like, the general idea I think would be a good idea in terms of a country as a whole. In terms of small communities, I can see it helping and bringing people together even in that sort of sense. I think it'd be a great thing. I don't particularly think it'll work in terms of, okay, I'm going to give people a check every month. The small technicalities of it, I think, aren't put into a brighter light, and I think they do need to be because they're going to cost a lot and they're going to have big effects. And to have a completely efficient system working to give every single American $1,000 every month is going to take a lot. So, I'm very much on the fence, I suppose.
Hello? My electricity went out.
Your electricity went out?
Yeah, just for a second. So my Wi-Fi cut out.
Yeah, cancel.
You're echoing.
On one of them. Yeah, that sucks.
Is that Dylan?
Yeah, if your electricity's gone out, Dylan, mine's definitely going to go out because we're the first ones to lose power. You'll be probably rerouted. They'll probably reroute you, but we're the first ones to lose power out here, so you'll probably get your power back and we'll probably go out.
Yeah. That's
well,
usually...
do you want to give your last statement, Justin?
My last statement? I think what we addressed here, like we just came up on the spot with a problem with UBI that nobody really thought of. Like, how are you going to get it to 330 million people?
Yeah, see, and that's a problem that's not thought about that much.
Whose iPhone?
Hello?
That's Dylan.
It's Dylan.
Okay.
Oh, man, it just got crazy here. Crazy. Okay.
Yeah, so I think what we just thought of was probably the biggest problem with UBI. I don't see it like, and then on top of that, there's also the question of inflation. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it will be good for the economy.
Wait, one second. I think I'm gonna go. It's got like crazy.
Okay, Dylan, I need to talk to you. Dylan, I need to talk to you about something later, so I'm gonna call you.
Sure. All right, thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, goodbye, Dylan.
Bye. Do you want to finish your statement?
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, so we just addressed like the problems with it. And then there's also the thing like, I think it'll be good for the economy, but it's not going to solve every single problem. And I know Andrew Yang's running on a solution-based campaign, but the thing is, there's a lot of people who are going to say the amount of benefit that's going to come from UBI might just be marginal. And is it going to be worth the $3 trillion worth of cost that we affront in order to, create this marginal benefit? other than that, I think it'll be a great benefit for society. But I might be skewed by Andrew Yang because like before Andrew Yang, I thought it was retarded.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. But then like he explained it, and I thought it could work, and that's about my conclusive statement. That's all I can conclude right now.
Well, I mean,
All right, so did everyone give their closing statements?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching on this exchange of information today. Please join us next. Everyone, please join us the week after the next, and we'll be talking about something else. Probably, I mean, maybe we should move, because this season so far, we've only been doing political things, and maybe we'll try to get back into some more niche topics this season, other than just the political things that we've been doing this season. Because, yeah, every show this season so far has been political. This show this season so far has been political. All right, so thank you so much for watching. Please join us next time, and goodbye.